Hey there, friends and neighbors, Bobby here today. Hey, we're out in the garage. Hey, today we're going to be working on this long block assembly here that we just got up on our engine stand. We're going to be reattaching all of the components that go on this engine so we can set it into our Honda Prelude. So stay tuned, folks. Okay, friends, with the engine flipped upside down on your engine stand, the first thing we need to install is the wingage tray. It has 4 screws that hold it on. Okay, friends, next is the oil pump pickup tube, okay? Go ahead and make sure you got your brand new O-ring on here. To have a little bit of oil around your O-ring, and go ahead and install it. With the oil pump pickup installed, go ahead and run up your bolts to hold that in place. With the wingage tray in place and the oil pump pickup, go ahead and torque all your bolts to the specified torque setting. Next, flip your engine over, and we want to go ahead and install the oil dipstick tube. I've already actually got it started, and what you want to do is get it started. It's actually a press fit. Find you a wrench that fits around the end of it. Hold your leg up against it kind of in place, and with a long drift, just go ahead and tap it on in place. Alright, that felt like it got there. Alright, friends, flip the engine back upside down. Double check in the bore where the dipstick tube goes. Make sure there's no debris. Make sure there's no debris inside the bore from driving the tube in. Alright, with the engine flipped back upside down, we're ready for the oil pan. First of all, take your RTV, put it in each corner, on the front and on the back, where it goes up around the crankshaft. Just dab you a small amount of RTV there. And with your oil pan gasket already glued to your oil pan with a quality RTV or weather stripping adhesive, go ahead and install. With all your oil pan bolts started by hand, after that go ahead and take your cordless impact and zip everything down in a pattern that starts in the center and works back and forth. Finally, friends, after you've got all the bolts run down, go ahead and take your torque wrench, and using that same pattern of starting in the center and working out, go ahead and torque all your bolts. Okay, now on to the front side of the engine. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to first of all install this front mount bracket with Loctite applied to the bolts. Let's go ahead and get them started by hand. And run them down with the cordless impact. and we will torque that with a torque wrench. Now on to the lower cover. Now first of all I want to show you this. This is the keyway. We're going to put the keyway at the end of the crank. We're also going to put this deflector on, and then we're going to put the cover on. Make sure your keyway is turned the correct way. Set it in place. Put your deflector on, in place. Sorry, got to put the deflector on first. Deflector is in place, keyway is in place, and now on to the lower cover. Has 6 bolts holding this lower cover in place. Start all of them by hand, and then zip them down with your cordless impact. Okay folks, with the harmonic balancer installed, make sure you take your crank bolt and put some Loctite on it. Actually, we're not going to be able to do that right now because this crank bolt is the wrong size for the threads in this new engine. We're going to have to get a new crank bolt. But typically you start it by hand, and I like to go ahead with the Loctite in place and go ahead and use an impact with a torque stick on it and just zip it down to the proper torque. And that's really all you need to do with the crank bolt, but just make sure you use Loctite on the crank bolt. Next we'll go ahead and put on the upper portion of our cover and get the bolts started and tighten down. Now we're on to the valve cover, folks. What I'm doing now is I'm taking just a little pin punch, putting a little bit, dabbing a little silicone on it, and all these corners, like on each side of these camshafts, in the little corner, I'm dabbing just a little bit of silicone before I set this valve cover in place. With the valve cover in place, go ahead and install all of your new washer grommets. Put all those in place, and then put on the nuts and tighten it down to the specified torque. Now folks, with the valve cover installed, let's go ahead and put our front motor mount in place. Let's go ahead and get the bolt started, and then grab your impact and just zip them down.